Picture this: medieval Europe, dark, grimy streets, and swarms of rats carrying a deadly plague that wiped out half the population. That's the story of the Black Death. We all know, right? The one where rats are the ultimate villains. But what if I told you that story is wrong? What if the rats were just scapegoats for a much faster, more terrifying killer? We're peeling back centuries of myth to uncover the real story of the Black Death. So, how did the Black Death, or the Great Pestilence as it was known then, become one of the deadliest pandemics in human history? Between 1346 and 1351, it's estimated that this plague killed 75 to 200 million people across Europe, North Africa, and Asia. That's up to 60% of Europe's entire population. To put that in perspective, imagine a disease today wiping out more than half of the United States in just 5 years. The scale is almost unimaginable. For centuries, the blame has been squarely placed on rats and the fleas they carried. The theory goes like this: the bacterium Yersinia pestis infected black rats. Fleas would bite the infected rats, pick up the bacteria, and then jump to humans, biting them and transmitting the disease. This is what we call bubonic plague, famous for the painful swellings, or buboes, in the lymph nodes. It sounds plausible, and it definitely played a part. But does it explain the sheer speed and scale of the pandemic? Let's look at the evidence. When you model the spread of a disease based on rat-to-human transmission, it's actually pretty slow. Rats don't travel that far or that fast. But the Black Death spread like wildfire, sometimes advancing several kilometers a day. It even continued to spread through winter when fleas and rats are far less active. Something just doesn't add up. Teehee rat flea model can't account for this explosive transmission. So, if it wasn't just the rats, what was it? This is where the story takes a dark turn. Modern research suggests the Black Death wasn't just one type of plague. It was likely two, or even three, hitting at the same time. The first, bubonic plague, was the one from the rats. But the real game changer was pneumonic plague. This is a different form of the same Yersinia pestis infection. Instead of infecting the lymph nodes, it gets into the lungs. And here's the terrifying part. Pneumonic plague spreads directly from person to person. No rats, no fleas needed. All it takes is for an infected person to cough or even breathe near someone else, sending bacteria-filled droplets into the air. This human-to-human transmission is incredibly fast and incredibly deadly. The mortality rate for untreated pneumonic plague is nearly 100%, and death can occur in as little as 24 hours. So, a more likely scenario is that the plague started with rats and fleas, creating the initial outbreaks of bubonic plague. But once the bacteria mutated or found its way into a person's lungs, it became pneumonic. It then spread through the population like a common cold, but with a horrifyingly high death rate. This explains the speed. It wasn't rats scurrying from town to town. It was people traveling, trading, and fleeing, unknowingly carrying the disease with them and spreading it with every breath. Now, why did the rats get all the blame? Well, it's a classic case of finding an easy target. In medieval times, people didn't understand germ theory. They were looking for a visible explanation for the horror unfolding around them. Rats were everywhere. They were seen as dirty, and they often appeared in large numbers in places where the plague was rampant. It was easy to connect the dots, even if they were the wrong dots. It is much easier to blame a pest you can see than an invisible enemy you can see. This narrative was simple. It made sense to people at the time, and it stuck. The image of the plague rat became cemented in our collective memory, passed down through art, literature, and history books. The medieval sanitation, or lack thereof, also created the perfect storm. Cities were crowded, waste was thrown into the streets, and personal hygiene was nothing like it is today. These conditions were ideal for rats, yes, but they were even more ideal for a disease that spreads from person to person in close quarters. People lived in small, poorly ventilated homes, often with entire families packed into a single room. Once one person was sick, it was almost impossible for others in the household to avoid it. This brings us to the big question. Could it happen again? The simple answer is, it's very unlikely to happen on the same scale. First, we have antibiotics. Yersinia pestis is a bacterium, and it can be treated effectively with modern medicine, especially if caught early. The Black Death had no cure. Second, our standards of public health and sanitation are worlds apart from the 14th century. We have sewage systems, waste management, and a much better understanding of hygiene. However, the plague hasn't completely disappeared. Small outbreaks of bubonic plague still occur in various parts of the world, including the United States, typically in rural areas. But these are usually isolated cases and are quickly contained. The pneumonic form is much rarer, but it remains incredibly dangerous. The real lesson from the Black Death isn't just about rats or fleas. It's a powerful reminder of how vulnerable we can be to new diseases and how quickly they can spread in a connected world. It highlights the critical importance of public health, sanitation, and rapid scientific response. While the rats may have been unfairly demonized, the true story of the Black Death shows us that the biggest threat was onto animals in the streets, but the invisible enemy we passed between ourselves. So, next time you hear the story of the rats and the plague, you'll know there's more to it. The rats were part of the problem, but they weren't the master villains. The real horror of the Black Death was its ability to turn us, humans, into its most effective carriers. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this dive into history interesting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Let me know in the comments what other historical myths you'd like me to tackle. See you in the next video.